right, everybody, we've got another very special guest for y'all, returning very special guest. Very welcome back to the show, Jonathan Hedrick.
Hello,
What's going on,
guys.
Jonathan?
Thanks for having me back.
Thanks for coming back.
Yep.
I think we've done something just right for the last few interviews, I guess, and
Perfect.
yeah, glad to see you. We're changing things up today. We're going to be talking about something a little more all ages book, I guess, right?
That's
what
right.
You consider it, right? And you're doing some cool things on Kickstarter, so we're going to talk about that. So, Atticus and the Magic Pillow Fort. Where did this idea come from? I mean, were you building a pillar fort at home? How did this...
I was 42 years old at the time, and I was building a pillow fort.
Hey, you're never too old to build pillow forts, man. Come on.
You really are.
Listen.
Yeah.
And that's I'm kind of jumping forward a little bit, but that's kind of like the theme of this book in my feelings with all age comics is they have a negative connotation towards that they're kid books, that they're targeted for kids. But you know what? If you look back at a lot of the things that are targeted, to that particular audience, people grow up and still like it. Look at how many people are still adults that are obsessed with Disney,
Right.
Wizard of Oz, even some of the more modern things. Like, I love Adventure Time. I think that show is awesome.
Yep.
Yeah. But you can, grab...
I like to remind people that Star Wars is a children's movie.
Star Wars is a great example.
Yep.
With some amputations here and there, but you need to learn about that kind of stuff early in life.
Mm-hmm.
Listen, we won't throw my father under the bus of when I saw Aliens, but that's a children's movie too.
I saw The Fly, the Jeff Goldblum Fly, at a very early age. So I was desensitized pretty quickly.
Yeah, that one's a little traumatic.
Yeah. Traumatic for the people who sat behind me, too, when I barfed. I've done an all-ages book before a few years back with The Space Cadet, which was a one-shot. I did that with Stefano Cardacelli, him and I collaborate a lot. And I really love The Space Cadet, a proud parent of that book. So I wanted to come back to all ages and do something more long form and do at least a 5-issue miniseries. And to do something like that, I needed more of a story with an adventure that had a plot that goes beyond one issue. Mm-hmm. And that's what, Atticus came from. It reminded me of being a kid, being stuck inside. I grew up in Florida where it rains a lot. And, when it rains, the television doesn't work very well during that time, too. And you have to get creative. So, it starts off with, Atticus not being able to use screens. He can't watch TV, he can't be on his phone or tablet. So he has to use his imagination. And then we go from there. We also incorporated scavenger hunt. And when I was a kid, I loved scavenger hunts. I would make them for my friends. I would, find them and do them myself. So it's a combination of, this adventure while using your imagination and, just getting away from the computer and the TV every now and then.
And it's funny you said Adventure Time, because when I, flip through it here, that's the first thing that came to mind is that sort of
I'm glad that was unintentional. I thought about that afterwards. I'm like, oh man, I was subconsciously channeling Adventure Time.
Yeah. It's not a bad thing, right? Yeah.
I'm happy that worked out that way.
Yeah. And I'm not even the big... I've seen 1 or 2 episodes in my life of Adventure Time. I'm not the biggest fan, but that's kind of something I'm like, oh, that it seems like that poppy, fantastical thing, Yeah.
Yeah, and it definitely when I read it earlier, it was it also has that intro that's almost like Chronicles of Narnia, minus the obvious Christian mythology references.
Exactly.
Yeah, that intro, and I love the little character you have. I forget his name now.
Russell.
The axolotl.
Axolotl.
Axolotl. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. With kid story, I shouldn't say kid stories, but these fantastic, far-fetched stories. There's you have your staple characters that are, these anthropomorphic type characters, and I wanted to throw in something that's a little out of the normal, not just a silly talking bear, a talking tiger, things like that. Like, how about something that's really weird? And who knows? Maybe someone will learn how to pronounce a word or something like that.
Yeah, yeah,
I know I
that's
don't. I
awesome.
still don't know how to spell it, so don't check me on that.
Yeah, it is pretty complicated. Yeah, and the art is really great for the book.
Yep.
If you want to talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, that's Deborah Lanchinese is the artist. We worked together before on Quicksand
Mm.
and Hyperaware. So I have a great writer-artist relationship with her. She's super talented artist, and I was lucky enough to get in her schedule this time for this issue.
Hmm.
So hopefully, when it's time to do issue 2, she'll pencil me in. But yeah, Deborah's fantastic, and it was cool to. Those other 2 titles, Quicksand and Hyperware, are so like serious sci-fi stories, and to do something with her that's a little more not so serious and a little more fun. It was a nice change of pace.
Yeah, the art's absolutely amazing. And looking at the Kickstarter right now, you're over you're pledged over the $500 goal right now. But I'm sure you have some. It's always good to keep backing and things like that. Or do you
Oh
have
yeah.
any stretch goals in mind, or like reasons people should keep backing even though you're already there?
Yeah, absolutely. Since this was a book that I funded myself first, well,
Hmm.
that's why it has such a modest funding goal. In a scenario like that, I put the funding goal low just because I want to get it out, not
Hmm.
because I need to, pay for artwork that's not done yet.
Hmm.
If I had, still needed to pay for 20 more pages, there'd be a much higher funding goal.
Right.
But yeah, so we're going to unlock a bookmark at 1,000.
Oh, cool.
And then we're going to do a postcard at 1,500. And we're already offering a free print by my wife, Francesca Fantini, if anyone backs it and just leaves a comment on the Kickstarter page. We're suggesting to leave a comment with a song to add to the official Atticus Spotify playlist. But if they just comment with anything like, looking forward to reading, or Jonathan, I hate you, either way, just comment and be engaged, be involved with the campaign, and we'll throw in that print, a physical for physical backers and a digital for digital backers. And then if something happens and we need to come up with a $2,000 stretch goal, I'm sure we'll figure something else out.
Awesome. And that Spotify playlist is on the page, and
Yes.
I'm
Yep.
happy to see there's a couple Shrek staples
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
the
Well,
on
the
the
Smash Mouth ones,
yeah,
the
Smash Mouth. Yeah,
Smash
yeah,
Mouth is living. Those
yeah,
guys can pay rent every month with the
yeah. Hell
royalties
yeah,
from Shrek.
yeah, for real. No, that's awesome. I think it's a really cool idea, and
Yeah,
the
just
print
trying
for
to get
that.
people more
Yeah.
involved instead of it being so stagnant.
Hmm.
Sometimes it's just and I'm guilty of it too.
Hmm.
With plenty of my other campaigns, is you put it out, you got your covers, and then 30 days you're just on social media cycling the same artwork
Hmm.
over and over
Yeah.
again, and everything just gets lost in white noise. But that I'm trying to really bring it home that this is fun. This is a all ages book. This is something that everyone can be involved with. So just going trying different things too. Kickstarter it's a rough platform, right? Not I want to say right now, but it's just the ebb and flow of it can be really challenging, and yeah, you gotta do something to break away from the monotonous part of doing the campaigns, which, like I said, I'm guilty of. I'm not calling anyone out.
Which kind of begs my question. I saw in this campaign like you're doing a bunch of new stuff, and that being one of them. Is all this in an effort to just reinvigorate, make it a little different, or is there an algorithmic reason for some of this stuff, like making or asking people to comment and all this other things?
Yeah, it's both. I did hear a theory that if people comment on the Kickstarter campaign page, that there is you can get a boost in your algorithm
Oh,
on the Kickstarter platform.
Cool.
The more time people are on your page, the more it's falls into the one of those categories that are going to be on the homepage automatically. So why not try that?
Yeah.
In the worst case
hmm
scenario, if it doesn't boost up the algorithm, at least you're I'm engaging with the backers and they're engaging back. And I'm rewarding them for doing that instead of just saying, hey guys, can you do something free for me? And
Right.
that, that'd be pretty cool if you did this free thing and you didn't get anything out of it. I tested that out with Capable 7, my previous campaign, and slid in a free print for people for that. And I think we got like 80 comments, including the comments that, were me replying back.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have any data to see if that actually worked, but I brought home a healthy amount and fulfilling the campaign, so it's worth trying. But then I'm trying other things too. You always got to test, something new with every campaign. It's always some type of learning curve, but you don't want to test too much at once. But I'm doing a coloring book edition, since this is targeted to all ages, including younger readers. So we did a fully lettered black and white coloring book, which I think is really cool too, because some people are fans of reading in black and white too. It's going to have the blank sketch cover. It's on uncoated paper, so you can actually color in it if you want to, or you can just read it in that format. So that's something different.
That, when I saw it, felt like a great minds think alike moment, because I've noticed just in our interviews, we've had like at least 3 so far this year, Mike, where people have had like coloring book editions of their book.
Really? Okay.
Yep,
and I'm like, it seems like a lot of people are coming to this, and it's all coming around the same time. So I'm like, you're all coming to the same conclusion at the same time.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it's been done before.
I mean, there's
there's
so many adult coloring books now out there too, of like,
yeah.
I mean, it's a relaxing
It makes sense
thing to
too.
do.
When you're doing a crowdfunding campaign, use what you have. Don't try to keep on making, paying for more $500, $800 covers that you're going to have to make back up. You already have penciled and inked pages. You already have it lettered. And if your letterer can just adjust some of those sound effects with the layers to make it black and white, and black and white's cheaper to print too.
Yeah, there you go.
Win-win.
Yeah, win-win.
Yeah. So I mean, you have about, as we're releasing the episode today, everybody's got about 20 more days to go. I did see you had this interesting thing, kick track on your page. I've never seen that before. That's something to track how the progress of the Kickstarter project overall, or something.
There's a website called KickTrack, and it essentially is tracking all the data on KickTrack amount from Kickstarter across all of their different categories, not just comics. And it's just a link that will take you to their website and show you, the progress that we can see as a creator on our dashboard, to see the statistical, data, what you could potentially get if you maintain this course of backing and funding. It's just another interesting way to let the people who are pledging money for, a comic book that's actually, they're pledging more for what they would get, at a regular comic book store. So I'm always trying to add more value. And what I stress a lot to the people that don't get Kickstarter is you're investing in the creator. So if I can involve the backers into that investment process by letting them track it with me, then maybe they get that sense of being involved in it too.
Cool. I think that's a pretty neat idea.
Yeah. And I kind of wanted to go back to something you were saying before, because we notice a lot in Kickstarter that people tend to have more, like, there seems to be 100 variant covers for every book we see.
Yeah.
Someone we all know and love is very guilty of this, Mr. Pat Shand.
Yeah.
But
he does a good job out of it too.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah, it's not a criticism. It's it's just an observation. You've done the exact opposite. You have basically one cover.
Yes.
Now 3 different ways, but was that really just you felt because of the market and who was backing it, one cover was probably good enough? Or like, what was your thought process on that?
It was this, the market really that this book is targeted to isn't chasing, 5 different collectible covers. I really want more people to read it more than, file it away and never look at it again. And then there's the cost aspect of it. I pay for another cover that's, however much it's going to cost me to make that cover. Then that's something I'm obligated to print. Now, the printer I use is a minimum of 25 copies. So now I need to make sure I can get my money back out of those 25 copies. And it's another thing to fulfill and blah, blah, blah. It goes back to what I was saying is I already paid for the book out of my own pocket. I'm just wanting to get it printed, get it put in people's hands, and maybe get enough scratch back that I could start funding the second issue. It would I'd be obviously stoked if it broke into 5 figures. I'm not going to be brokenhearted if it doesn't either. But the point is just getting this into people's hands, and variant covers I can always do more variant covers in another campaign. I can do variant covers again if it goes into the direct market. There's not a sense of need of the multiple covers for this campaign at the moment in time. And it's also another thing to manage too.
Right.
Okay, I have this cover, and I gotta talk about this one, and I gotta talk about that cover. I've had books that have, like, Recount has so many covers, and it's taxing, it's great. Right. I'm so grateful to have so many awesome covers and, talented artists that have touched that book, but it's a lot, of just an inventory alone. And then, another aspect of it, me being in Italy right now, I need to keep my inventory as low as possible too. So when I'm printing these books and fulfilling them, I'm getting very few amounts sent to me over here because I don't need that a huge quantity of books here because I just don't have the place to potentially sell them for. So I'm just trying to keep my margins as thin as possible.
Definitely.
That all makes sense to me. It's a good approach. Like you said, for a book like this, you probably don't need, if you're sharing the book with a younger person in your family or something too, it's like you don't need 5 different covers.
No.
Right? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. It's meant to be read. Handed
exactly.
Read. Yep.
They only need 2. They need the shiny one.
The shiny one, right? That's it.
Yeah.
And the color
book one. Yeah.
Exactly. That's all you
Always
need.
The shiny one. Yep.
What you do, the plan is you color in the coloring book one.
Yep.
You read the regular cover and you display the shiny foil.
The shiny one, of course.
There you go.
You hit all 3 parts of the whole comic book collecting aspect.
Awesome. Yep. Yeah, it's the holy trinity of collecting there.
Right.
Yep. Awesome. Yeah, I'm wishing you the best of luck on this.
Thank you.
And, before we annoy you about some other stuff coming up, like, is there anything else you want to say about the project, for people listening out there? Anything you want to touch on?
If there's anyone that has, any doubts or hesitation about backing or supporting an all ages book, I would say just give it a chance.
Mm-hmm.
Don't judge the book by its cover. And maybe someone that might like this book. And I personally think it's really great to read. I'm obviously a proud parent, but I don't know. Just give it a chance to look at the preview pages.
Yep, there's quite a few preview pages up there. They're a lot of fun. Yep.
Yeah, it's not dumbed down kid stuff to me.
Mm-hmm. Right.
That was my whole thing. Is I don't want it to dumb it down and talk, like I'm lowering, down to anyone's point of view. I'm just telling you in a fun way.
Yep.
Yeah.
Cool.
And I'll say before we jump to the next topic, it's a fun read. It has a great, not the ending super surprising, but it was a fun, surprise at the end.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
And it does a great job in the first issue of just building this fun world. This fun, like I said, almost like Chronicles of Narnia meets like a Candyland board game or something.
Yep.
So it's definitely a fun time. And I always say too, I read quite a few all ages books as well, and there's some fun stories in there. Like you can get if you get sick of the monotony of the dark and grim superhero books all the time,
right?
It's a great way to get away from it.
Yeah, it's escapism from the escapism. It's give it a shot. That's what I say. I like a lot of the books I started reading when I got into comic books as a kid was all ages. It was the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle adventures. The the adaptation of the cartoon. It was Sonic the Hedgehog. It was movie adaptations and stuff like that. And if it wasn't for those books, those more approachable, reader-friendly books, I might not have gotten into the rest of the things. And if we want comic books to continue, we need to get the younger generation into them as well. And if we're if we're flooding the market with things that they can't, dig until they're older, they may not ever get into it, ever. So it's the circle of life of comics.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now I know Mike wants to ask about Dream Master, so go ahead, Mike.
No,
I love a Dream Master question.
Yeah, what's next for Dream Master? We got any updates on? Is that something you're working on soon, or?
Absolutely. So I've seen artwork all the way up to issue 10.
Sick.
Issue 10, the artwork just started. So
okay.
I have I'm pretty sure that Black Box wants to wait until issue 10 is in the can before soliciting issue 6. So I can say that we're really close to finishing that second volume.
Nice. Which
is, no one wants that volume out more than me right now, I can tell you. I wanted that. Black Box may have paid for all, thousands of dollars to produce this next volume, but I want that out more than anyone else. But this next volume is going to take it to another level. We're going to see Dream Master interacting with dreamers that you may not have expected him to interact with. There's a new villain. And then on top of that, I've spent the majority of the beginning of the year finishing Volume 4. Collectively, I've written 21 scripts or issues of Dream Master.
That's awesome.
400 plus pages. So I can tell you, it gets... As long as nothing terrible happens in the universe, though, there's plenty of more Dream Master. I just can't. I can't guarantee you how quickly they're going to come out.
Yeah.
The artist Luigi Baricelli, super talented guy. He's not one that I would want to rush through anything. But yeah, I hope that maybe this next volume could be solicited by the end of the year.
Okay. Yep.
As somebody who's kind of pared down their whole list as of recently, have they said anything about a collected edition of it?
I was just going to ask that.
I have been... I've tried to plant those seeds in Black Box's, head, and like, we got to get a trade. We got to do a trade, but they have so many titles that also need trades too.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like, which one do they do first?
Dream Master.
Exactly. That's what I've
That's the
told
one
them.
you do.
Like,
what do you mean?
Look at the sales.
Yeah, look at the sales. I don't know what kind of conversation is going on here.
Right. I'm trying to. I'm walking on eggshells, so I don't say anything I shouldn't say. But I wish they would have done a Kickstarter for it.
Yeah,
I think
for sure.
I think that would have done really well, especially to keep the momentum going. Most of the issues from Volume 1 came out in 2023. I wish we could have done a trade in 2024 and then put out Volume 2 in 2025 to kind of fill in that gap. But Demetrius, super nice guy, the guy who runs Black Box, he's juggling like a ton of titles and a lot of things in motion, and I get it. Trust me, like I said, no one's more frustrated and wants that book out more than I do.
Yeah.
So tell him that I'm ready to sell out, so I'll come over and I'll get that going for him.
There you go.
Take it off his hands.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. I mean, for sure, it'd be great to have it. I mean, it is awesome having all those single issues with that amazing art, but for sure, a collected edition would be awesome, especially for you now. Like going to
gallery,
yeah. Exactly.
And so outside of that, do you have anything else really going on that's announced? I know there's always stuff going on, but stuff we can talk about?
I mean, nothing that I can kind of beat around the bush with. I did a lot of work for hire last year. I wrote over 300 pages that were work for hire stuff. I didn't write anything that was my own last year, which is a good problem to have. The problem of that good problem to have is I don't control the progress of the book. But there is one that Francesca and I worked on. So we worked on a book together that came out last year called Can I Scream? A publisher approached us to do a book together again. So that was a 48-page graphic novel that was supposed to come out before the end of last year. It still hasn't come out yet, but it's super cool. It's completely done. Lettering too. It's written by me. It's black and white art by Francesca, and it's lettered by Leo McGovern, who lettered Atticus, and he also lettered Can I Scream? Spill Blood. He's done some books at Black Box as well. He's getting really busy. He's a busy letterer right now. So that thing is all packaged. I've seen the cover for it. I've seen a 3D mock-up, and I'm just like, announce it already. But it's one of those projects where it has to go through so many approvals of it. There's a lot of people that have to sign off on it, and it's already, the script was approved, the artwork is approved, and now it's like, who's going to approve when they pull the trigger to announce it? And I'm sure this Diamond situation probably threw a wrench in their spokes, and I don't know if the publisher was owed something too, because of the bankruptcy at Diamond. Maybe that kind of slowed some things down.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
But
Yeah.
I would expect that to be announced. The last time I was told an update was that it was going to be announced in January. So I'm just trying not to be the guy that's like, hey.
Hello. Yeah.
Yeah. Because we all got paid too.
Yeah.
Everything's done. But I think it's a timing thing at this point. So hopefully that will get announced
cool.
soon. Because that's a really cool project that I got to do something really different with, and it was just super fun, and I hope I get to work with that publisher again and do more projects like that, especially getting paid to work with my wife, you know?
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
We did a book together, and I'm still waiting to get paid for it.
Yeah,
So
right.
we got paid to do a book together, which was awesome. You know,
Yeah.
and it's just a really cool book. I wish I could tell more about it, but
That's awesome. Yeah. Well,
In
looking
time.
forward to that. Yeah.
yeah.
Something you do have going on that's not necessarily new, but it dives into me and yours origin story as well. You got the rights back to probably my favorite book of yours, The Recount.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
And you've been giving it away for free.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that
So
up.
what- Can you go into details as to what happened in the backstory of that? Or is that kind of still hush-hush?
I can go into it. I mean, I probably will save some of the more juicier stuff for maybe my autobiography, but but okay. So the 5-year contract for the Recount was up at the end of December, and I reached out to a scout and said, hey, per the contract, it's up for renewal. Do you want to renew it? I'm okay either way you guys want to go. And they replied with a quick claim, which basically says that we're giving it back to you. There was no negotiation offered. I'm like, okay, that easy peasy, lemon squeezy. They get to sell off whatever inventory they have, whatever sells within this next year. I still get my 50% of profit.
Mm-hmm.
And they need to take down the book from any digital platforms within 6 months. Not, muddy up the water and automatically just start printing copies of the Recount while I know there's still a warehouse with speaking of a ton of covers that I probably need to sell off. And I don't want to burn any bridges with them. I know creators have had rocky stuff with them. I've had rocky stuff with them too. Just been a lot less verbal with it. But I also have 2 other books that are still contracted underneath them, Quicksand and Space Cadet. So I don't want to, mess any of that up either. So what can I do? Give it away for free. So why not build up my Substack platform with this graphic novel that is more timely than it ever was before.
Right.
When the Recount first came out, it was on sale a week after a presidential election. Right. Now I have it back in a different president is in office. So, and when I thought about it, I'm like, I don't want to if I just give a Dropbox link, no one's going to read it, because the worst thing to do in comics is give away your comic book for free. The comic book community has this paradox. It's like, comic books are too expensive. But no, I don't want to read that free comic book.
Yeah, right.
It's like, oh, there must be something wrong with that comic book if it's free.
Yep.
I'll show you my tablet of review comics sometimes.
I'm sure
Yeah.
you have a to read pile that will never
Yeah.
that
Never get
magic
read.
apple. Every time you take a bite,
Yeah.
it grows back. But with Substack, I'm trying to build that that following, that community, and I'm just terrible at newsletters. I am terrible at talking about myself. I'm terrible at just BSing, and it's also a platform to read. And there's a lot of people on a lot of great people on there that are doing great things, but there's a lot of things that just aren't reading. So I wanted to give something for people to read, and when I thought about it and I broke it down into each issue into 4 parts, I'm like, this kind of is episodic in a way. If I break it down to mostly 6 pages per post, and then I can get like 16 posts down of that over 3 or 4 months. That keeps me going back to the algorithms and stuff like that. It keeps me cycling through, and I'm not charging anyone for it. You can read it for free. All you have to do is read it before it archives within 4 weeks. I did a audio commentary on each post not an audio commentary, a voiceover where I'm like reading the and please don't listen to it because it's terrible. It's me trying to do my be an old timey radio actor, doing sound effects with my mouth and bang pow.
Listen to
We
that.
are
Sold,
the
dude.
masses.
Sold.
And then me changing to a female voice and stuff like
Oh
that.
man, I love this. This is amazing.
And then I threw in trivia. I tried to put a little bit of trivia in each post to incentivize people who have already read the recount, who are already fans of it, to kind of, if they're wanting to reread it and get a little bit more inside information about it. So that's the whole purpose of redoing the recount or releasing it for free over my newsletter.
Cool. I think that's a really cool idea.
But I have more plans for the recount after this. Deluxe hardcover version has been in the works for a long time. I have a cover from an amazing artist that's working on who works with one of the best writers in the direct market right now. I've been sitting on a very expensive cover for this deluxe version of the recount for a long time.
Nice.
So you have a Dan Mora cover.
Yeah.
That's
But
awesome.
it's a pretty awesome cover, and I'm frustrated I haven't had a chance to use it. I came close at the beginning of 2023. A pre-launch was live for a very short time for the deluxe hardcover version of the recount, but I shut it down because Scout stuck their hand out and said that if I ran a campaign for it, they would have to get like 15 or 20%, and I'm like, no, I'm not going to give you any. If I'm running a campaign and fulfilling the whole thing, that's not in our contract.
Right.
So I just canceled it instead of running it anyways, and butting heads and all that stuff. So, so we hopefully that will come sometime this year.
Cool.
Is the deluxe? That would be the preamble, the 4 issues of the main series, the ash can. Probably a truncated cover gallery because I don't own all the artwork for all those covers. So it'd be a smaller version of that, and maybe the completed pages I have so far for Volume 2 as like a bonus at the end. Yeah, that's part of the plan. That's like second half of 2025.
Cool.
126, the Recount 2.
Let's go.
That's
Recounted.
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 Recounter.
Recounter.
Recount harder.
Yeah.
Recount or die.
Yeah.
Live free or recount.
Live free. There you go. Live free or recount. Let's go.
But I need that Kickstarter to fund the second volume. So
Right.
if we want the second volume, I gotta do something to fund that. So that I think that a deluxe hardcover of the recount I would hope would bring me enough money to at least pay for the first issue of Volume 2.
Oh yeah, I'd be here for that. So you can count on my $100 or whatever, how much you're going to charge for that thing.
Yeah, I'm not. Yeah, that's another thing. I have to go with a different printer, and right now being
it's a whole
in
different
Italy,
setup.
the downside about living in Italy is not being able to fulfill my Kickstarters myself. I hate that. I've always liked being hands-on with that, and having to outsource that it's hard for me as someone who micromanages everything and just wants to do everything themselves and refuses to ask for help and take help when it's offered. It's hard.
Yeah, I bet.
I kind of thought you've been really generous with your time. A cool way to kind of wrap it up is with what you just said. You grew up in Florida. I knew you from Florida, and you've recently moved to Italy. By recently, it was a few years ago, if I'm not mistaken. I've noticed as I'm following you on social media and stalking you there, you've been going to some Comic-Cons and doing some stuff over there. How's the scene over there for that kind of thing? How is it different from the United States?
It's night and day difference. Not in a good or bad way. It's just a different culture. So I've done 3 shows here in Italy and 1 in England since I've been over here. It'll be a year in June that I've been here. The 3 shows in Italy were more pop culture events than they were Comic Cons, which is slowly what a lot of the corporate run shows in America are getting to, just a smorgasbord of, you're a name. Yeah. You were the girl from the Orbitz commercial in '90s.
Yeah, right.
You were the guy on the cover of My Chemical Romance.
Right.
We're gonna give you a guest spot. And that's what it is. The most recent show, the hall we were in, Artist Alley made up maybe a quarter of that hall, and then almost half of the other side was old school cabinet style arcade games on free play, which I dig. I thought that was cool.
Yeah.
That was dope. I know. And then there was the other half was like a wrestling ring. And there's guys just slamming back and forth, and that was just one hall.
Yeah.
So when you have these type of pop culture events, they're not Comic-Cons, you're getting less interaction from people who are seeking the comic book stuff. And then on top of it, in Italy, their American standard format comic is not very popular.
Right. It's manga.
They're really into manga. They want completed versions, and the variant market doesn't make sense to them. Almost like clickbait, putting like a different artist's cover.
Yep.
Because they want that inside. If they're gonna, that your cover caught their eye, they expect that inside too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's why I think that the artist in the book should be the cover A artist.
Yeah.
100%.
Yep.
Yeah.
Always,
I agree with that. All day. But I've had some a good time in all those shows. I've met several people I've seen at multiple shows that have made purchases. There are fans of American style comics in Italy. It's just not the biggest thing, and it's not similar to the comic books here. They grew up watching anime here. My generation was watching anime regularly here in Italy. But the anime I had in America was, Voltron and, Silver Fox or Silverhawks. Yep. It wasn't. It wasn't. They grew up watching Naruto here and Dragon Ball Z. We got that stuff so late that we're still adapting to it.
Right.
In the Artist Alley, too, it's a lot of people that aren't working in comics. They're not making comics. They're doing pinups and they're doing sketches for $15. Francesca's like, I can't compete with these people because they're selling their artwork for far less than what I'm selling my artwork for.
Yeah, that's tough.
So she's even though she's Italian and grew up here, I hate to say the word struggles, but it's challenging for her too, because she's not going to lower her rate just so she can sell a $15 quick sketch or something like that.
Right. Yeah, it's tough.
But yeah,
that's
the one you went to in England was Thought Bubble. From
and that's
I've always wanted to go to that show, man.
Yeah.
That is
I heard it's unreal.
Yeah, that you definitely need to try to make one of those, because that one is very comic book oriented. That one is to England what I think Heroes Con in North Carolina is. It's really comics, a few vendors, but it's just comic book creators, rows after rows after rows. It's not a huge tower of Funkos and looky-loos dressed up as some cosplay that you don't get, and they're knocking over stuff off of your table with their raptor tail and not realizing it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, Thought Bubble was awesome. I hope I get to go back. That was one of the best shows I ever went to, and we had a huge travel hiccup getting there, and it still was like one of my best shows I've ever been to.
That's awesome. That's
Yeah.
great. Sounds like a cool experience.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, Jonathan, thanks for taking so much time with us
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks for having
today.
me back.
If our listeners and our viewers, they want to follow you, if they're not following you already, which they should be, where do you want to send them?
My website is Jonathan Hedrick Comics, and that's like the hub. You can find everything from there. I have links to all my other socials there. If I have a project that's live, it'll be right there, front and center. You can watch my the videos that I have for the trailers for my videos. There's links to where to buy my comic books on different publishers' websites and on Global Comics too, if you want to do it digitally. So JonathanHedrickComics.com, and not with an X at the end, but with a proper S at the end.
Nice. Yeah.
There was some venom coming out of that one, John.
Yeah. No X. Yeah. Yeah.
To everybody out there watching or listening, you should know the drill by now. I'll have links in the show notes down below, as well as links to all Jonathan's social media. So check that out and click on it. And most importantly, go look at Atticus and the Magical Pillow Fort. I think I had said that right.
Yep.
Yes.
Perfect.
Yes. And back that campaign, because I can promise you it's a good, fun book.
Yes.
Jonathan, it's always a pleasure talking to you, man.
Yep.
Love having
Likewise.
me on.
Thank you guys.
And
I appreciate it.
yeah, best of luck with everything moving forward too, and we're looking forward to that Recount
Yeah, good luck.
hardcover.
Thank you. We'll do.